Right, hello guys and welcome back, and if you haven't noticed already, I am 450 power, and today I thought I would give you guys a video basically breaking down the build that I use to get from 400 to 450 power as efficiently as possible, because I've had a lot of people asking in my stream in the Powerthon last week where I did it all in one long stretch. It took me 64 hours, asking what is this build, how am I doing my solo ops so fast. So today I thought I would give you a video on exactly that, and this is going to be a video in two parts. The first is me explaining the build itself, and then we're going to go into my modifier setup that I use for my solo ops, and then we're going to do a live example of two of the solo ops that I recommend you doing in this process if you're going for 450 power. So to start off with, this is going to be a Titan build. I did not farm any power on my Warlock or Hunter whatsoever, and that is because I believe Titan is the most efficient when it comes to clearing these solo ops as quickly as possible. And the build I'm using is Ashen Wake on Solar Titan with fusion grenades, and this is a very good build for a couple of reasons, as you'll come to see later. But quickly going over the build, because it really isn't that complicated. You basically just want to make sure you have a good amount of grenade and a good amount of super stat, and then Ashen Wake, and then a bunch of useful mods which I can show later. But the general gist is that you want to be on Solar Titan using fusion grenades, Hammer of Soul. This is very important. You cannot use the Burning Maul super. You have to be on Hammer of Soul. So yeah, just as a kind of general overview, it's the classic Solar Titan setup. Everything is the same except you would change for Fusion Grenade, Roaring Flames, Sol Invictus, and then your fragments don't really matter at all. Because we are using a Ashen Wake build, it is nice to have something like Ember of Resolve to make it so Solar Grenade Final Blows cure you. I also like to have Ember of Torches so that Hammer hits make me Radiant, Ember of Ashes, and then Ember of Char, just for the bonus grenade stat. So like I mentioned earlier, the stats you want is a good amount of grenade to get over 100 ideally, because then that means your Fusion Grenade is going to be dealing more damage the more points you invest into that stat above 100. Unfortunately, because I am at 450 power, I have access to some very good gear. So if this is like you and you managed to farm a lot of Solstice gear during Solstice the last 2 weeks and you have a bunch of tier 5 gear readily available, I would recommend going for a similar distribution to this. I have 180 grenade, 100 super, and then the rest can literally go into whatever. I think the minimum amount of melee required is 55 for you to be able to pick it up instantly off the ground, so it really doesn't require much investment there. But yes, having the tier 5 gear does improve things. Mods wise, we have double Ashes to Acids on our helmet to make us get more super energy from fusion grenade kills. Then we have a grenade font in my case, which will push me over to 200 grenade whenever I have armor charge, because this will give me plus 20 heavy-handed firepower, stacks on stacks to get 2 armor charges from picking up an orb, and then some time dilation to make the fonts last longer. Artifact doesn't matter at all, don't worry about that. And then weapons wise, for farming, I really like using double special, because as you'll come to see, it doesn't really matter what weapons you bring in, because you will have plenty of ammo for them if you collect the crates in the activity. I have a Mint Retrograde and Choir of One. These are the two weapons that I recommend. This weapon is utterly fantastic for K1 logistics, which we will go through a run of in just a short moment. This is very good for breaking the hive clusters. And then we have Choir of One, which is great for any precision kill bonus objectives that you get in your farm. So just to quickly show you how Ashen Wake works, you might already know this already, but if you have at least 100 grenade stat and you get 2 kills with your fusion grenade, you are going to be very close to your next one. As you can see there, it's literally going to take me like 2 seconds and I already have it back. And if you get 3 kills or higher, it will instantly give you your grenade back. The other case is where if you kill a yellow bar enemy, it will instantly refund it, because it is based on enemy rank, not just number of kills. So I think orange bar will also give it. In fact, we can test that. So just testing on an orange bar here. Okay, yeah, that counts as 2 red bars. So 1 orange bar won't give you your full grenade back, but it'll still give a pretty significant chunk. So that's just something to bear in mind. But obviously, if you get more than 3 red bar or more than 2 orange bar kills, you're always going to get your grenade back. And if you have Roaring Flames times 3 going, that's going to get increased by 73%. And then if you have 200 grenade, that's going to be another 65% on top of that. So basically, the whole aim of this build is to make your grenades do a lot of damage. And lastly, before we move on to the modifiers for these solo ops, I just wanted to mention that if you want to, I would recommend using the Onslaught Refit Catalyst for Choir of One, not destabilizing rounds, because if you use destabilizing rounds, your destabilizing volatile explosions will steal your kills for any weapon or precision kill objectives. So I would very much recommend changing to the Onslaught Refit so you can fire the weapon faster, but also so that the gun doesn't actively troll you. So getting into the solo ops part of the video. Now, the part we've all been dreading, and that is basically me just telling you which ones ones you should be farming. So there are only 2 solo ops that you should ever worry about farming if you are going for 450 power specifically, and those are K1 Logistics and Caldera. The others are just kind of too slow or just kind of boring, you know, not really efficient, worth your time sort of thing. The reason you want K1 or Caldera is because they are both pretty quick solo ops and they have some decent enemy like faction rotations which just make them bearable. And today actually is Hive K1 Logistics. So K1 Logistics can get either Hive or Fallen as the enemy factions, and Caldera can either be Fallen or Vex, and they alternate. So Hive K1 is definitely the best, as you will come to see in a moment, as I will demonstrate a pretty interesting piece of tech. And then for Caldera, the best is Fallen, and these alternate on alternating days. So today is a Hive day for K1 Logistics when I'm recording this, which means that it is also a Vex Caldera, which you don't want to be doing. But tomorrow it will rotate to Fallen Caldera, and you will not want to be doing K1 Logistics because it is also going to rotate to Fallen K1, which is not good, doesn't let you do some special tech. So just bear that in mind. They alternate every other day, so you basically have one good solo op to do all the time, which is very nice. So in terms of the actual modifiers, when you hit 400, you're going to want to do Grandmaster difficulty. And the actual modifiers that you put on the activity do rotate daily, so sometimes you kind of just have to wait for the luck of the draw. But today is a very good day because you have both Grenadier and Brawler, and you can put both of these on and still get a pretty good score. I will show you that in just a sec. But these 2 modifiers are fantastic because Grenadier is going to make it so it doubles your grenade damage, and I think it also doubles your grenade regeneration rate. But I do know that it 100% doubles your grenade damage, which is very good for this Ashen Wake setup. Then we have Brawler, which in the same way doubles your melee damage, which for a Solar Titan is very good because your hammers are going to be dealing a lot more damage. You don't need to put Brawler on, but I just have it on anyway because, you know, why not? It doesn't actually take away that much score from my forecast. And then I wouldn't necessarily recommend going for a 3rd modifier, but if there was something like Full Throttle, you could put that on. But just for the purposes of today's video, I'm going to leave that off. And I'm also going to take off Brawler as well, because you only really need Grenadier for this build. But if there isn't Grenadier available, then you could go Full Throttle if it is there. You just basically want to pick a modifier out of these that you know will increase your grenade damage. But yeah, you're going to want Grenadier if it is there, because this shit is busted with Ashen Wake. So let's move on. For the player stakes modifiers, always put on Brawn and leave the others as they are. You don't want to do no starting ammo. You definitely don't want to do no hard unless you somehow like that. I hate no hard, so I never put this on, despite it actually improving your reward score by a pretty significant margin, at least compared to no radar. But I always leave these 2 the same. Leave equipment the same, radar the same, but do put on Brawn, because this is basically gonna give you a decent chunk of score without actually increasing the power level of the activity. Then for the challenge modifiers, I always like to put on 1 Bane. So let's see here. We like Rage and Avalanche, Rage and Caltrops. Let's just put Threaded and Caltrops. That's fine. And then as for the other modifiers, unfortunately, it is not on here today, but if you ever see a Solar Hunger modifier, then that is also going to be excellent, because that will make it so when you deal a lot of solar damage, it will improve the regen rate of your solar abilities, including your grenade. So it'll make the grenade come back very quickly, as well as your super, which is also very important for getting sub 2-minute runs. So it's not on here today. That's no big deal. We can just leave that. And for the rest, it's just kind of whatever. You know, we could do 1 arc threat. We can do subtle foes. We can do counterfeit. We can do another one. I actually have to put on a lot of modifiers for me to actually get A here, because I am 450. But if you're not 450, then this is going to be fine. You'll probably already be at A if you put all these 3 on. But just for the sake of the video, let's do Fire Pit. And then there we go. See, we're already past the halfway point of B+, which is all you need. I'm sure you guys probably heard this already, but if you are farming solo ops, you don't actually have to get to A. You just need to make sure that you are past the halfway point in the B+ bar. And then if you're fast enough, you will still get A reward. So that's good enough. We can leave that as is. So this is basically the modifier overview. I'll leave this on the screen here for a second if you want to, you know, pause and take a screenshot, but very important to have Grenadier, and then the rest is kind of up to you. So now I'll actually take us into a run, and I will give you guys my thought process running through it and what I did in last week, basically just to maximize my efficiency. So as soon as the run begins, we just kind of want to scan where all of the hive sort of clusters are. We've got a weapon takedowns side objective here, so that's not terribly ideal, but we can just kind of start with Choir and get some early kills here in the first area, kind of snipe this one over here, and then use a sword to jump across this way, break the second one, and then it's just going to be getting a bunch of weapon kills to kind of fill that counter. In this first starting area, I like to get at least 25 weapon kills, just so I'm not slowing myself down too much, because I know I can get the rest as I progress into the Lost Sector. But this is where having Onslaught on Choir is quite nice, because as you can see, it's firing relatively quickly, so I'm able to dispatch these enemies, you know, quite quickly. We've got the 3 out of 4 scanners, and we're just about to hit 25 kills, so I'll just make sure I clean up some of these here. In fact, you can use the rocket pulse a little bit. Got some spare ammo here. And we just get, you know, 1 or 2 more kills, and then we're done. I can destroy the last cluster here. I always like to go through this main entrance rather than the side entrance because of some tricky parkour off on the left side. You know, summon your Sparrow, summon your Skimmer here, and just glide into the next area. Drop down, swipe across here. Pull out the sword again, swipe across, down we go. I've had a lot of practice with this, in fact, over 600 runs, so I know a little about what I'm doing. But in this room is typically where I like to finish the side objective if it is a more lengthy one like this. If we were lucky with an ability kills one, then I would have just done that in the first room, but because we need a lot more kills here, see, there we go, now that's done. And we almost have our super, so what I want to focus on now is getting my super. So we're going to get a few grenade kills with Ashen Wake to get some super energy. And then we are going to be able to go into the boss room with our super, which is now charged. Now that that is done, it is onto the boss killing step, which is very quick, as you'll come to see. So we don't have to worry about ammo, don't have to worry about any of that. What you will have to do is tap the boss once to spawn in these extra waves of ads. Use that to refresh your Roaring Flames, and then get the boss to the first health threshold here, pop your super, and then throw a hammer at her, and that'll break her shield without having to wait for the mound to spawn in at all. After that, just throw your grenade and miss. And yep, give me a second, I'll try not to miss. There we go, that should send her to her next health threshold, and then you can throw another hammer and that'll break her shield again, and then you can carry on doing what you were doing previously, and just keep throwing grenades. Try to not miss like I did, but that's the general gist. If you use the Sunbreaker super to skip, you will have very quick boss kills and, you know, get a pretty decent solo op. And look at that! We got a prime! We actually got a prime on the recording. What the hell? Let's check the time. 2:45. Not a fantastic time, but that's because we had the weapon kill objective. If we'd had ability kills, it would have been way quicker. But we also got a prime, so thank you for showing up, Prime, for the YouTube video. It was a bow, so not fantastic, but, you know, there you go. It works. Prime guaranteed if you use the llama method. Now, as for Caldera, unfortunately today is Vex Caldera, which isn't the best to farm. You can definitely farm it, but it is on the same day as Hive K1, which in my opinion is just way faster, way better. So I will come back tomorrow when the rotation has changed to Fallen Caldera, and I will show you how to do that, because there is also some extra tech to that, which you ought to know. Alright, welcome back guys. It is now day 2, and the solo op has rotated to Fallen Caldera, and we have a brand new set of modifiers, so I'm just going to take you through this solo op, which is the one that you should be alternating between K1 from the previous day. So taking a look at the modifiers today, they are actually nowhere near as good as they were yesterday. We don't have Brawler, we don't have Grenadier anymore, but we do have a few that, you know, you can kind of somewhat take advantage of. The first one being Air Superiority. While you are airborne, you deal increased damage. Like I said before, you are just kind of looking for modifiers which can increase your damage in some way. I'm just going to take Air Superiority and Strand Surge here because we are using Min Retrograde, so it'll just improve that damage by 25%. Player stakes, again, go Brawn. For the Banes, I'm just going to take Screever and Shroud. We'll do a Solar Threat, do Subtle Foes, because supposedly there's some tech to that with the Fallen Depots. I can do Counterfeit as well. Let's do Arachno, and at that point we should be almost about half. Maybe we just need one more. We'll do Hot Knife. Shanks have Solar Shields, why not? So there we go. Now we're halfway through the bar, and I will join you guys in the actual activity. Okay, so we are into the solo op now, and we actually have a ability takedowns objective, and I'm just going to show you guys with Ashen Wake how easy this objective is to complete, even without Grenadier or anything like that. We're at 7 out of 15 already, and we are basically almost done. In fact, I'll grab this heavy because Solstice is not here anymore, so we can't use Fired Up. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to run through all of the depots as quickly as possible. Just get through all of them, interact, and then leave. You don't need to kill any of the ads. Chances are that your Shank will path well and it will find its way to the depot. Chuck another grenade down there, and boom, the objective is already completed. And then we're just going to speed run our way through the rest of the solo op. Try and get to the boss room as quickly as possible, because that is where the next piece of tech that I want to show you guys is. And again, it involves, you know, using your solar abilities and so on. So as you're going through the train, if you are 1 HP like me with Brawn and you're not going to regen it, what you can do rather than running to the end, if you have the objective completed, is just throw yourself off this edge here and then you will die. But when you respawn, you will actually spawn right in the boss room. So as you can see here, boom, here we are. And what I can do is I can get my sacks of roaring flames up. And if it was Grenadier, I'd be able to, you know, deal a lot more damage with my grenade here. But what I'm going to try and do is phase these bosses before they even teleport. So I'm going to chuck a grenade there. That'll phase his health. That one's phased because we have Strand Surge. It's doing a lot of damage without him in retrograde. I'm going to finish him off with Choir. And then this guy always goes to this last, like, sort of area of the map. So even if he's way off there, he will teleport over there. But it was a pretty quick boss kill, regardless. Instead, I think I'll have a clip running now where I show a better boss kill with better modifiers. But it's just, you're kind of at the mercy of the modifiers. There we go. These two solo ops are very beneficial to you. As you can see, I did that in 2:35 there. That was pretty quick for a Caldera. You can't get that sort of time on a Vex. I mean, maybe you can, but it's just a lot better on Fallen. No Prime there, like we got in the first run yesterday, but that's okay. So there we have it, guys. That is my recommendation for your farming build as a Titan for gaining power level, whether you're going from 300 to 400 or 400 to 450. This is a very efficient build for getting the job done as quickly as possible. It's also a very fun build. I've just been using this outside of solo ops just because Ashen Wake is pretty fun now with all the stat changes and it dealing more damage with the grenade stat and so on. So as always, there will be a dim link in the description for this build. If you were curious about the fashion, I can show you here. This was submitted to me by one of my viewers on Twitch. Shout out to Scorpion. I think I'm going to start maining this drip from now on, the Patrick Star. Patrick Star gets the job done. And then as far as set bonuses are concerned, you don't really have to worry about it. It's just a farming build. They won't really benefit you at all. So yeah, dim link in the description, guys. And if you like what you saw here today, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as I really appreciate that. It helps to grow the channel. And I will see you in the next one. So take care, everybody, and bye for now, dear viewer.